You guys have really stepped up the first 3 good weeks of the season.
Yeah, they're playing hard, Jerry. I mean, I'm proud of just proud of how hard they're preparing, and to be honest with you, how hard they're critiquing themselves and taking criticism. And this is where we've gotten to, and we still got things to accomplish without a doubt. Obviously, it's early in the season, but this was something that a few years ago I believed, if given the opportunity to develop, that we had a chance with this group to be pretty special. And obviously they've taken advantage of some opportunities, and hopefully this week against NC State, we can have a good performance again. But I know we got our hands full with this group in the Wolfpack.
Charlie, what do you remember about recruiting Deslin? I know he was committed to NC State. I mean, what did you guys kind of do to get him to jump ship?
Well, timing-wise, he was actually here when I got here, but I knew Deslin because he's a South Florida guy, and obviously I've recruited there a long time and was at Florida Atlantic when he was coming out. But honestly, I'd be speaking out of turn if I talked about what happened from that standpoint.
Charlie, can you talk a little bit about your conversations with Jalen before and during the time he decided to opt out?
Sure. I mean, as you know, he made a decision that he felt was best for his family. And, we talked to him about the pros and cons of either direction that he could go, staying or opting out. And because obviously any decision anybody makes, there's pros and cons either way. So we just tried to guide him on the risks of staying compared to the risks of going, and the benefits of staying compared to the benefits of going. And at the end of the day, there's no love lost from Pitt to Jalen, and I believe that's the truth going the other way. Obviously, would love a chance to coach Jalen again this year. It'd been a lot of fun to have him with us, but I'm proud of the guys that have stepped into having more opportunity and having a bigger role this year than if Jalen was still here.
It's kind
Charlie, go ahead, Jim.
It's been fun to watch Jalen Twyman. He tweets during the games, and one of the comments he made this week, it's when after Kalijah had a big play, he said, "It's just me and a different number." I mean, are their games pretty similar?
There are some similarities, but Jalen wouldn't like to hear this, but there are some things that Jalen did better than Kalijah. There are some things that Kalijah has the ability to do better than Jalen. So their games are different. There's certainly some things that are similar, but there's definitely two kids that have obviously Jalen's game and come a long way holistically, and Kalijah's still working on the entirety of his game, but everyone's starting to see that he can be pretty explosive and special as we move forward.
Charlie, do you think you've gotten the room to a point where there's an expectation? So when young guys come in, they know that where they have to step to, if you understand what I'm saying, like you've gotten it to that level?
I do. And you see daily examples of it. One of them, and I'm not going to mention names of young guys who went through some of these moments, but as the young guys came in, one of them showed up to the practice field as he wasn't late, but as the clock was ticking down. And as I was getting ready to go over and say, that's not how we do things, there was 7 or 8 of the D linemen letting him know that. Any drill work we're doing, any skill work we're doing, there's a demand on the attention to detail, on why we're doing what we're doing. If a young guy floats, he's being held accountable by players oftentimes before I need to. And it takes time to get to that. It takes guys who have developed through this system. It was harder for, and I love Folston, right? And I love those guys that have been through here and graduated, but we just weren't together long enough where they completely understood what I was trying to get done each and every day. And because they're holding these young guys so accountable, I think these young guys are going to benefit and then therefore develop faster because of it.
Charlie, you go pretty far back with Dave Doeren, going back to Drake. As a player though, even before that, how did a guy from Florida get to Drake to play football?
That's a good question. So signing day came and went for me. I'm probably 5'10" and a half with cleats on. As I was trying to figure out where I was going to go, I knew I wanted to play football. They have what's called a small college fair down in South Florida, where after signing day, a lot of the smaller divisions come down and kind of go through a recruiting fair. And I was immediately endeared to Drake because I'm very comfortable in a city, and it's right in Des Moines, which is a sizable city, pretty comparable in size to Pittsburgh. So that attracted me right away. And then the level of degree, the level of academics, I thought a degree from there would carry some weight, even though I didn't quite know what I wanted to do yet. So the combination of those things is how I ended up traveling so far. But Drake, thankfully, was one of the schools that ended up coming down to South Florida for that post-signing day small college fair that they still do to this day, and gives a lot of kids opportunity to play football and go to college.
And then you ended up there, obviously, as a GA. It was your first break into the coaching ranks with Doeren and Chris Ash and some other guys. I mean, what was that experience like? I think you roomed with Dave, and what was that experience? What do you kind of remember from that?
Oh man, I coached high school for a year and then went back and coached at Drake after a season. And our spring breaks, we were also competitive with each other. We loved what we were doing. We were having a ton of fun, the same way I think anyone in their early 20s would have fun. But our spring breaks, we would pick a highway, and then so we picked I-35 one year, and we figured out who was in spring ball. And we would just cold call the office and say, can we come watch practice? And can we sit in on as many meetings as you'll let us sit on? We were just hungry to learn. I met Phil Bennett when he was at TCU. We went one year, trying to remember Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, TCU. We just kept working our way down I-35. But we just had this the three of us, this weird, unique connection where we were always trying to get everything we could from any coach who would let us talk to him. If you ever reached out to Phil Bennett, he once in a while he'll remind me of when the Drake guys came to see him at TCU, and we just always were kind of wired that way. And I think we fed off each other. And then obviously we got a chance to work together again at Wisconsin a number of years later.
That was you, Doeren, and Ash?
Say that again, Jerry. I'm sorry.
You, Doeren, and Ash, right?
Me, Dave, and Chris. Yep.
Have you talked to Dave at all, in advance of this, advance of the season or advance of this game that you're up against each other and all that?
Not this week, right? I think that's pretty standard that you're going to keep your separation. But we did talk last week, and we talk at least every couple weeks. But I mean, our families are friends. We were not only roommates in grad school, we lived across the street from each other when we worked at Wisconsin. I mean, we sincerely go back. It's a deep relationship. Our families have a relationship, but this week I'm sure we'll stay in our own lanes and see each other after the game. And I got a ton of respect for him. I know he's going to have this team ready. He is a driven human being. He was, honestly, when we were all kind of going through that process as young coaches, I always said to myself, he was. I don't know that I knew I would even get a chance as a head coach like I did. And thankfully Chris did too, but you knew Dave was going to get that shot. He had that ability to talk to people combined with that ability to stay focused and so much attention to detail. He made me better, and I know he's going to have his team ready this week.
Charlie, when you got to Pitt, Pat and Rashad were already here. They were not guys that were like super high level recruits, as far as like rankings and things like that. Did you see right away that they could become what they had become? What was that process like for those guys and the development that went through?
Yeah, their development curve has been different. At the time, Pat was transitioning to some off the field things from nothing wrong, right, from a college standpoint. He was just adjusting to the schedule of college football. They had both just gone through their first fall semester and come out of that red shirt year. Where, Rashad had adjusted a little more to the college, the academics and all the demands of being a Division I athlete. So at the time, Weaver, I think, because he had all that in control, that's where you felt Weaver a little bit more in what was I'm losing track years 2018, right? So then Pat, I'll never forget it, as he got his things in order, and I do believe they are symmetric. They do work together. There's a synergy. When Pat figured his life out and figured his schedule out, I'll never forget there was a play against Notre Dame when we were at that place. I think that was 2018. And he didn't make the tackle, but he had a play with some fundamentals. And I think you guys know I love fundamentals. It's boring to those that don't love line play, and that's okay. But he exploded out of his stance, created havoc in the backfield. Someone else made the play. But we knew that was a moment. It was one of those moments you could build from there And then Pat's curve has obviously gone like this. And last year when we kind of switched where he was playing on the field, he took full advantage of it and really learned how to prepare like a pro every given day. I mean, this morning he's in here. It's Pat's birthday today. And I'm sitting in my office at 5:45, and 15 minutes later, I hear him roll right in, turn the film on, and get to work. It's just what Pat and Weaver have become, is relentless, just a relentless pursuit to get better.
You're obviously a coach that's pretty heavily involved in the recruiting for Pitt, with your Florida ties. How different is it, though, as a coach, where the recruiting part of it is obviously, I'm sure it's rewarding for you when you get a recruit, a guy that you've been working on for a number of years. But what's the difference between, like landing this high recruit that you really wanted, and then also as a position coach, taking a guy that maybe was not that highly rated recruit that maybe you're going to send into the first or second round of the NFL draft?
They both have different, they're both rewarding. I mean, they're both exciting to be a part of, right? I mean, an interesting thing is, as recruiting has really sped up, as it's gotten so much faster, I mean, we're deep into building relationship with kids that are graduating in 22. So the position recruiting has become so much more than the area recruiting, the way it was 5, 6, 7 years ago. Everything has ramped up in terms of speed. But to answer your question, there are different seasons in my mind. They're almost different sports, right? And I think a lot of the fans that follow recruiting see it that way. They follow some of your publications, and you guys know it. I mean, there's times where your hits and your clicks and all the stuff that makes you guys money ramps up as signing day comes, because it's a different sport. Same for us. I mean, we want to win at everything we do, right? I mean, everyone's seen The Last Dance, and I'm not comparing myself to anyone in that level, but I will say this: I want to beat whoever I'm competing against on a recruit. And when someone comes in here and they're in our room, I hope that I can outdevelop him compared to anyone that coaches the position I coach around the country. It's just kind of how we're wired.